The stale, humid air in the basement hall pressed heavy against my skin, as oppressive as the silence in the moments before Pastor Watanabe spoke. Rows of plastic folding chairs filled the space, each one occupied by someone from Suganami's scattered, weary congregation. Auntie Ryoko sat in the front row, arms crossed. My mother was next to her, jaw tight. Above us, fluorescent lights buzzed a nervous, brittle soul. Pastor Watanabe cleared his throat, brushing absently at the sweat beading on his brow. "So, Aki," he said, pausing as if my name might summon some benevolent spirit. "Aki-san wishes to share his plan with us all, for encouragement. Please." He gestured to the microphone. It wasn't really my decision. A week prior, I blurted my ambition at the dinner table after too many silent Sundays with my mother and sister data artist, using code and light and movement to show the hidden stories inside numbers. I'd spoken too loudly, I think. My voice didn't sound like my own. Now, on this Tuesday evening in May, I dragged myself to the mic. I could hear every shuffle, each tiny cough. I looked down at my shoes as I spoke, but their stares burned through my scalp. In the world, there's a lot of numbers. Data is in everything. I want to use it to make art, visualizations no one's ever seen before, to make people feel the patterns. My voice caught. I want to study, maybe enter competitions, create an installation. Show them in museums, not just here but everywhere. The words felt pathetic. Data art? They call it generative algorithmic. I want to do that. A burst of laughter broke out, a raw, honest, ugly sound. Auntie Ryoko's voice split the noise. "Is he serious? Data? Art? Are you playing computer games or chasing real work? Aki-kun?" From somewhere, a younger boy snickered. My mother, Pastor Watanabe, tried to quell them, holding up his palm as though blocking rain. "Let us listen." But Uncle Jiro stood up, bulk filling his shirt, voice booming. "You are so clever at maths, Aki-kun. Why not engineer, doctor? You are too clever to waste time drawing with computers. This is not the dream of a son who loves his family." I stared at my ink-stained sneakers. Nobody saw their reflections in my ideas, only shame and confusion. My face throbbed with heat, even now. As I closed my eyes, I remember the numbness of that moment, the humid, gray stink of the church's below-street room, and my body folding in on itself. I did not cry. That would have been another defeat. I just let their laughter and incredulity wash over me. Later, in the corridor, my mother gently gripped my elbow. She didn't look directly at me. "Your father would be sad if he were here," she murmured, soft but sharp. "Try to choose a path we all can follow." Her fingers pinched a little, like she was urging me to wake from a dream. That night, I lay on my futon, eyes open to the shadows drifting across my ceiling, as if they might spell out a different future. I did not sleep. I listened to the city beyond my window, street sounds, distant trains, the muffled lives of others. I wondered if dreaming meant betraying them, if wanting more meant turning away from all I knew. But clarity, I found, was a bitter light. The next morning, I began to save whatever I could, taking odd jobs, running cash at the supermarket, cleaning offices before dawn, repairing broken screens at a hole-in-the-wall electronics shop, all while coding late into the night, line after line, pattern after pattern. Sometimes the art came out ugly or meaningless. Sometimes it was beautiful, like the quiet play of sunlight refracted through a glass of water. Nobody in Suganami understood. At family gatherings, I was introduced as the clever one with no real job, no real plan. At church, I got polite, worried smiles. My mother would show her friends my Pi Day visualizations on her phone, apologizing while she scrolled. It is just a phase. He will find something useful. What I remember most is the loneliness, the way it crowded around the edges of each day. But clarity comes from emptiness sometimes. If the world had applauded me, perhaps I'd never have worked so hard to matter. Some nights I found myself at the Hanegi Park, standing under cherry trees in the dark, listening to cicadas and the distant rumble of the city. Here, patterns made sense: leaves falling, wind shifting, the invisible paths of bats in the streetlights. I sketched these movements with code until the whole city seemed alive inside my laptop. My breakthrough came years later when I submitted an animated data piece, Ghostlight, rendering Tokyo's daily carbon footprints as shifting, glowing stapes of light and color to a regional art tech showcase. Judges' comments said, evocative, original, mathematically poetic. My heart raced when I got the acceptance email. I stood in the light of my screen, trembling, but I told nobody at home. The night of the exhibition, rain soaked Shibuya. The gallery was noisy, bright, filled with strange creators and their even stranger supporters. My piece took up a whole corner, a projection cycling through months of the city's collective breath. Commuter lines, industrial zones, market streets, each flicker a digital stitch, rendered in twin rivers of code and color. For 30 minutes, I stood hidden near the projector, pretending not to watch. People stared. Some snapped photos. I heard someone whisper, "Beautiful," in a tone that made my chest ache. That was the first confirmation. Perhaps what I made was not only real, but worth seeing. A few months later, an invitation arrived. Paris Data Arts Conference. International applicants encouraged. Travel stipend promised for finalists. I spent weeks refining my submission, a vast, slow animation visualizing earthquake data, mapping pulses across time and space as colored lattice nets. When the conference announced my selection, I called from a payphone outside the bus terminal. Hands shaking, my mother answered after many rings. "A conference?" She repeated, wary. "Abroad?" "Yes, in Paris," I said, voice twisted with doubt and pride. She was silent, then said, "I suppose someone must go," trailing off as if she didn't know how to finish. France was nothing like home. Each day was filled with unfamiliar odors, languages, gestures. Yet for once, I wasn't only the outcast, I was an invited foreigner. My work projected for critics and creators from every continent. The night my piece debuted, the gallery hushed, faces upturned to the glowing data. I felt, however small, a part of something larger. A journalist wrote, "Tokyo's Akimori reimagines catastrophe as beauty." I tore that review from a magazine, folded it into my wallet, kept it close. They asked me to stay, help set up a residency, join research collectives. I spent 4 years traveling between cities, Berlin, New York, Seoul, teaching, collaborating, watching people marvel at patterns only I had ever noticed before. I changed. My Japanese got clumsy. My heart learned to live without old safety nets. My palms grew rough from long nights and hard work. But each time at gallery openings or talks, when foreigners praised the poetry in my algorithms, I felt an urge to return. Each compliment felt not quite complete, like a joke nobody back home would understand. It was autumn, 6 years after that first public shaming, when a note arrived from Suginami Church. I was living temporarily in Shibuya, in a sublet stacked with other art-adjacent types. I recognized the handwriting, my sister Chio's, childlike block script. "They are building the community center, you know. The one you always wanted to light up for Tanabata. If you are around, you should come to the opening. They want multimedia. Mother wants you to come." She did not mention my work, but the invitation felt strange. Nobody had told me of the new center. For years, my messages home went unanswered, or answered only stiffly. Now suddenly the door was nudged open. I debated. I wondered if I could forgive or be forgiven. I booked the train.